We are live.
Senate appropriations 17th of April. Trying to finish up the Senate version proposal of the Senate Appropriations Committee approach for the FY 27 budget. So we've had some language discussions yesterday. So we have our education expert, council. This St. James, Councilor St. James, well, was going to help us understand that.
Right now.
Yeah.
That's St. James Office of Legislative Counsel. Are we talking about the language in C-103?
Yes.
Okay. What can I help you? Without being presumptuous. What can I help you with?
C-103.
Yeah.
Are you able to share your
Yes.
screen? So we just saw everybody saying page literally the lines.
So I'm using what's on your website for today. That's the House version with edits.
That would be helpful.
Okay.
That part, yeah. So there was like a technical change, but our main question was on page numbers. But
Oh, okay.
so there's a change that we might have. Is that on there?
Mhm.
So the school districts and cooperative educational service areas, we want to strike that. That's not stricken out of this example. Yeah.
Are you talking about line 5?
Yeah.
I don't think that's what you want to strike.
Okay. So
Sure. Sure. I know what you want to strike, and I think I still want to strike.
this is two things we want to strike. So the one we want to strike is on the next page, but in our discussions today, it was said that having named as school districts and cooperative educational services would be problematic to have it so specific that we leave it open to SUs, SDs,
Okay.
CSAs, whatever.
Well, CSAs are cooperative educational service
Right.
areas, but I hear you that you just want to make that language more, less constricting.
So
So,
just says
okay.
awarding transition grants to support.
Okay.
So instead of saying specifically who might get it.
Got it.
So as long as you don't see a problem or some other non.
Now that I understand your goal, I do not see a problem.
Okay. So that's that. So then the next page, B, 3B, or just little b.
Are you sure you don't want to stay in this definition?
Can you let me know what, the school board transition? That is a new, no, but yes. But
This
isn't that the
language.
house? That model is. We didn't talk about that.
So, this
Why do you
language,
think we want it?
we're in Act 73,
Right,
right? We're amending Act 73.
yeah,
So when we talk about new governance and administrative models as contemplated by the Act, we're talking about the governance models that Act 73 contemplated.
right.
And I would respectfully suggest that that is a policy decision for you all to make on whether where you are going now was contemplated in Act 73.
See, so if we wanted to contemplate a model not in Act 73, this would limit us.
Correct.
Okay. So yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So if you just struck models as contemplated by this Act,
Right.
I would say it's actually very similar to what you're doing on line 5. You're just leaving it open to new governance and administrative models, and you're not tying it to any particular legislative position.
Yes.
Okay.
We want to be.
We definitely need
What's that?
models as contemplated.
Model. Yeah. Put that here.
Okay.
Okay, so yes, now we can be,
Subsection B.
yes, that's section B, the last sentence. In the agency shall protect. We want to strike that sentence. Yes.
If you want to use this money now, I would say yes.
Now, this school year.
Yes, because there's been no new school boundaries enacted yet.
And people pointed out that these are for transition grants. Create new districts, but you have to have new districts created to do the grants. It's kind of like the catch-22.
Absolutely.
So it isn't, it's more just fixing a catch-22 than a policy decision.
I don't know that I feel comfortable saying yes or no to that question. I will say, I think this language advanced out of the House prior to 955 taking shape.
Okay. I feel like it's a catch-22 that we can remove without having appropriations committee getting too far into education policy. So
I don't think any of the appropriations traveling in H 955 work if you don't remove the language.
okay, that's what I think. So we will stress. Okay. There was also, I don't know if people talking about the Medicaid.
I think I'm back up to Jen on this one.
Okay. Okay, well, good. Well, I'm glad you guys got it all worked out.
Do you want to switch with me? Sure.
Yeah, well, you can switch if you, or, but just have to find room to pass each other.
Oh.
Oh, no, the pressure comes in right at the wrong time.
Good afternoon, Jen Carter from the Office of Legislative Counsel. I understand you may have questions, but I don't know. And I'm thinking, what language?
We didn't understand
Or,
the request from AOE about the difference between what the House had done on the medicated school language and what they were asking. So what they referenced the House bill that they had introduced, 588 or something like that.
558.
558. So I don't know if you're able to explain the difference. I don't know how much time we want to spend on trying to understand the difference. Like,
So I think one of the things in anticipation of this committee meeting, I went back through what I have done in Ways and Means, and I think that's where the changes occurred. So I have a markup version that I think may help show what the changes are from the bill as introduced to what had and was what passed Ways and Means and then was added to the budget. So making sure I can find
and then maybe less, if it's something simple, my guess is that we won't want to spend too much time on it, but we might want to change it just enough so it's germane for the conference.
okay, so let's put this language up. This is not quite the final version. That's the version that had the most change. I think the changes that are relevant. So. So this is H 558. This is one that was in Ways and Means. And they made a number of changes that aren't relevant for you here. I think taking a step back for a moment, the idea behind this bill that went into budget was moving the kind of total responsibility for administering the Medicaid school-based services program from kind of combination of the Agency of Human Services and Agency of Education to just the Agency of Human Services, which is the single state agency for Medicaid administration in the state, and in the best position to ensure compliance with the federal requirements. So there are a few things. So as I understand it, under current law, districts, schools, I'm not going to get the education terminology right, but the schools pay for the services for the students. And if they're Medicaid eligible, then they submit information so that they can get Medicaid reimbursement, and a portion of that Medicaid reimbursement goes back to the schools for some limited purposes. As introduced, I believe the bill had specified that the Agency of Education may specify the use of program funds that are received by the school and school districts and supervisory unions. And had language in here providing some rulemaking allowing the agency to adopt rules, setting forth the requirements that districts have to meet regarding the use of the Medicaid reimbursements from the fund, which is where they get deposited, and coordinating reimbursement related to state-based students with the Medicaid school-based services program, and addressing the manner in which districts receive and reconcile funds in alignment with education cost reimbursements. And so this language was struck, as I recall, the conversation in Ways and Means had to do with allowing the districts, because it's their money that's getting spent in the first place, allowing the districts, when they're being paid back a portion of, I mean, 55% of what they spent, that they would get to decide how they would use that money when they got it back. And then I think there was also some discussion about the effective date. And my recollection is that after the bill was introduced with the July 1st effective date, the Agency of Human Services asked to move that date to October 1st. I think it aligned with the implementation of this change. Also aligned with the federal fiscal year. So I'm not sure what the rationale would be for moving it back to July, but you may want to hear from the Agency of Human Services about whether there would be a position for this.
I don't know if they mentioned that, but
Okay. I saw it in the online testimony that we received, so.
okay. So that basically the AOE wanted to say the schools shall use, we get to decide by this rule how they spend it, and
Right,
Ways and Means that no.
right.
Schools just
Under
get them.
current law, there are some parameters for how the money has to be used. So somewhere,
Oh, that's okay. We don't need to know.
but yes, it's sort of,
There's
you know,
some-
specific prevention purposes and some prevention and intervention programs in pre-K through grade 12, facilitate early identification and intervention, et cetera. And that take out that existing statute and make it broader, the usage broader. So not limited just to those purposes. And as came out of the House, it would allow the schools to decide how they would apply the money, the reimbursement funds.
Right.
So this is, that was in our committee.
Bill's not
This
in here.
bill, it was in the House Appropriations, it was sent to the House Appropriations Committee, which took the language and put it into the budget. Okay, as well.
We're dealing with it because it's in the budget. So,
Not in the house.
right.
No, because this was the AHS, AOE.
Right. It's all
Even though the money's coming from AHS in the future, AOE, so they still want to make the decision. The rules come from AOE, even though AHS is now taking over the program.
I don't know what testimony you heard, so my understanding is that you were told they wanted the rulemaking back. And that is the rulemaking.
But isn't the whole basis of the change is that this is moving from AOE to AHS?
It's currently a combination of AOE and AHS, and it is moving entirely to AHS for administration.
Except AOE wants to do rulemaking on how to spend money.
It's an ongoing debate. That we as well.
We have an opinion on, we can either just leave it the House language as it is, or make changes so that it's a conference, or accept the AOE's request, which is not to accept the House.
The AOE probably should heard, however, it's gonna be an ongoing debate.
Right.
Ready to see this.
What the House is. Anybody else have an opinion? We'll just leave it as it is. Which gives the schools who already spent the money the authority to spend it as they. In some schools, it's not very much money, but other schools, my understanding is it can be quite a large number for some schools. Okay. With that, I think we're done with the education language. But your education language people are welcome to stay the whole afternoon. Because I think now we're at the point where we would either later we would want to talk to grade. We could go through this Emily, if you have.
You're being.
Being great. There are some items that we have kind of left open. Amy, do you want to remind us what those are? Is that possible?
Or your language,
Either language or otherwise, so there's some other kind of items.
we went through some of those today. I think your natural process of going through language and the spreadsheet is gonna probably answer a lot of it. Yeah.
They're already in the
Yeah.
language or spreadsheet. So we think that'll finish our work once we go through the language creating, go through the spreadsheets.
Think so. I can go through some of the more like super interesting spreadsheets that we present you, like reversions, transfers.
You have those, right?
I can put them on the screen.
Okay, do that. I know the committee would wants to work really hard. It's really late. Really late.
All right, the record, Emily Byrne, the fiscal office. I'll go through the reversions real quick. Just because there are some updates that I have spoken about,
We
but
haven't seen the reversion.
Yeah.
Yeah, have we?
I think I gave it to you like at the very beginning,
Of the
like
year.
what the house did. When I came, we presented the
Okay.
house did, but I haven't shown you the updates.
Okay.
Which they all came from the technical letter.
All right. Yeah.
And on
This the. On the JFO website, or was it the call?
It would be on the Senate Group's website.
It would be in JFO, FY27 document.
Yeah, probably under mining. Which I told Elle to hold on to post this somewhere. Justin, or
So there's just a new one for today.
Yeah.
The reversion.
reversions, yeah. We do want to sign it, this would be not really good. So only 3 changes.
By 944.
So there are 3, the House found 3 additional items to revert compared to the governor. And there were some technical issues with all of them, so they need to change in the Senate version. With the first 2, the ADS redistricting task force funds and the correctional services funds. These are both FY 2026 appropriations that were made, so the ADS redistricting task force, there was $100,000 set aside for ADS to help with the redistricting task force. They only spent about $30,000 of that money. What the House did was they did a reversion of those funds, but the more appropriate action should have been to just reduce the FY 2026 appropriation because we're actively in FY 26. So this eliminates the reversions, and then we're going to carry in the C section a reduction in the appropriation to ADS. Now you'll note that I said there was spent 30,000. This number is 80,000. We got an updated number from the Agency of Digital Services. They had some extra bills that cleared, so the actual amount remaining in that appropriation is about $70,000. So this gets rid of that reversion and will true up the number in the C section to correct that. Additionally, at the Department of Corrections in line 16, this is related to the pretrial programs. In FY 2026, that's going away or doesn't exist anymore. So you can revert $650,000 or the House had booked a reversion from corrections for $650,000. What they should have done was reduced the appropriation in FY 26 for $650,000. So this gets rid of the reversion and then reduces the appropriation in FY 26 in the C section.
Okay.
Finally, in row 19, the emissions repair program, the House reverted all of the remaining funds in the appropriation for the DEC's emissions repair program, effectively canceling that program. In conversations with the agency of natural resources and in the technical letter, there's some obligations against that outstanding appropriation that still exist. So they need to hold on to about $235,000 to cover outstanding contracts and some additional administrative costs. So that number has been updated to reflect what ANR believes can be reverted from that appropriation. ANR has said there's about $200,000 out in existing contracts. They would like to maintain those contracts and sort of let the program run its course until that money is spent. They could request that they cancel those contracts and revert money early. But this is updated before they.
But all these are accounted for in
Correct.
spreadsheets.
Yes.
How much money. So this is just showing exactly
What's happening?
what the governor has proposed and the changes that the council generating. And but these are really all the reversion. I thought there was more, just 23 of them.
Yeah, in FY 26, there was a much bigger list. And then the budget adjustment is where there's usually
Right, yeah,
very
that'd be okay.
long versions. This is all we got so far.
Okay. Anybody have any questions about reversions?
Question, well, just about the emission repair program, and my understanding is that that program is pretty undersubscribed.
Yes.
Right. I'm just contemplating the wisdom of saying, well, that feels like thanks as well, but the wisdom of saying cancel these contracts early since they're undersubscribed. I've used some money elsewhere.
Where did the house use that? Did they have a direct connection with this? Something else, they just took this money. Yeah, I think there was $600,000. So I think 598, they're only at that like $1,700. They had to give them like one emission repair.
Yeah.
But they're saying that they have contracts for, I don't know how many emission repairs they actually have pending. I think this is the contract to the vendor that would
Right, that would be.
run the program. They don't do the emissions repairs, they send it to the home, the car owner, and the car owner, they shop. I'm not sure how they calculated it, but I feel like I would need more time to figure that out. But if we could change the reversion by some amount, then give more time and have talked about it.
It's already changing compared to the house.
It is changing. Oh, because we changed, yeah, all right. We're making this Senate change, increasing it. So then we can ask them for this contract. Because they came in and said they had a contract, but we haven't seen it. Okay. So it's something we'll flag for conference. Right, yeah, right. We'll flag that we need to get more information before it comes up. Okay, so we can close out the reverting thing.
Great.
That's success. Do you have other tables?
I have the big chart, but they're not printed, still being printed.
Okay,
So I
is there
don't
anything
want to
else
wait.
we could do? For?
Pastor Prince usually tells jokes.
Okay. I do have a I have a friend who's renovating his house, totally changed his house around. The first floor looks great. The one above that is a whole other story. That's also, I heard they arrested the devil. Got him on possession. Okay, with that, we'll take a break. Okay, we're back on mute. We did the reversion, so we don't need to that sheet.
We're gonna start with the base
Base,
changes.
all about base. Senator Mauser loved that song. He would, if something about a bass came up, he would start singing that song. Which everybody thought was very cute.
I will, there is one thing that I can mention now related to the transportation fund. For the bill. Maybe I'm good if I get this wrong. Logan wanted me to make sure to remind you all. Some of you have not quite happy to have seen the T-bill, but the rest of you have not seen it yet. There is a change in B 309 related to the TIP fund, I believe. 903, sorry, 903 that we will make to match up the appropriations bill with the transportation bill.
All right, so just
The appropriations
different
are
from the house.
different from the, right.
So we're gonna take it from TIP fund, make it from the general fund. Is that what it was?
This is team, this is transportation fund here.
Transportation fund, TIP fund, I think.
Yeah.
Swap.
I mean, the TIP fund is part of the transportation fund in my mind. Yeah, I get it.
In terms of full disclosure, we will make that change in the bill. It will show up in the web report.
We appropriated. Yeah.
One. You check that off the list. Anyway, okay, the base appropriation changes. I've highlighted in salmon,
Nice.
the changes from yesterday. Some things are totally new, some things are moved around a little bit. I'll walk through all of them. The first one highlighted in row 9, for the Sergeant of Arms. The new single point of entry policy was not in the Sergeant of Arms base budget in FY27 as approved. This would add about $60,000 to cover single point of entry in FY27.
Did you get the specifics of the short sergeant? Like, because there was some difference in the number between what we had heard at one time and then what. You
Yeah.
were gonna send an email. to-
Except maybe not.
Okay, it is 60, because I remember we thought maybe
Yeah.
35, but then it was 60.
Yeah.
So we confirmed it is 60.
Perfect. So that's been added on line 26.
Any questions about that? People have. Go ahead.
Line 26, the Agency of Agriculture. This was the conversation, put back the money so that the fee at Agency of Agriculture for large farms will be eliminated. And the additional costs covered by general
And medium farms.
and medium farms. Yeah. Line 27, yesterday, I think the constructs had 350,000 for Vermont Access Network. This puts it back up to 450,000. In addition to what's in the base. Line 39, this was part of the construct presented by Senator Lyons yesterday related to maintaining the historic rate prescription co-pays at $1 and $3 instead of the governor's proposal to raise it to $4, $8. In line 40, reduction to the Bridges to Health grant. It's part of the way to pay for the prescription drug. Line 44, the elimination of the 2-on-1 contract addition. There's still a 2-on-1 contract. This is the addition to the 2-on-1 contract.
So I don't know if we want to talk about, we can leave that open because we're going to talk about the center lines construct. Total, or do you want to do it one?
They can do it one at a time, I think, unless.
Yeah, we might all do it while we're going through this. Do you want to say anything about
On the 2-on-1.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think 2-on-1 is critical. I agree with Senator Westman about that. But as I look through all of the AHS possibilities, maintaining a primary care system plan. This is what that came up and it was recommended by AHS. So, and then. And then house that, the back end. And we have heard from 2-on-1. It was for everything that I've recently about. So they all need the one. Oh, I'm willing to look at this. I would want to strike, strike it all, but I would be willing to perhaps strike half of it.
I think the difficulty in this is with getting proper information. That the information has been conflicting. The concern is the busiest time for 2-on-1 is between 4 o'clock in the afternoon and 10 o'clock in the evening. And if, for example, that single homeless that is going to make a call, they're probably going to make it to the have a hearing this day. I don't want to cripple them, so.
At the same time, we're doing a total new investment in how homeless people connect. And at the same time, we have 988. And so other ways of reaching services. But I don't want to close this down. Understood. I've heard more recently this would shut it down. We can't do that. So I think maybe provide some things.
Absolutely agree.
So my understanding is center lines proposing to change this to 0.11
Yeah.
from proposed to make it 0.
And it will be an issue.
There'll be an issue in the conference.
And being an open discussions.
So do it right now if you want to. Change that to 0.1 unless other committee members have.
The PDS.
Yeah, well. figure that out. You can do it. Okay, so I changed it on my 0.11. In the setting columns.
Okay.
That'll be something we good discussion. Next, that takes it to the
Next page.
opioid preference.
The opioid recovery employment program, proposed to move that to the opioid fund at one time. The line 65, the Department of Fish and Wildlife backfilling the excess fee. My understanding is that in Senate Finance, while the miscellaneous tax bill hasn't been settled, that they are going to accept the House's position on whether or not Fish and Wildlife can charge that fee, which would require providing $50,000 Fish and Wildlife in the whole. They don't charge that fee.
And that miscellaneous bill has to come to appropriations.
We'll come to appropriations, yes.
So certain sense, we'd have that discussion all over again, but by that point, we had passed the budget. So we could do it either way, really. But this way, we're covering the money that later we put back in their authority to charge the fee. We'd have $50,000 in the budget when we get the copies.
So where does the authority to charge a fee get taken away in the House Ways and Means original bill that got sent over here?
Yeah.
And the Senate Finance concurred with that.
My understanding is there.
They haven't,
They haven't officially voted yet.
Right.
But it's looking like.
Okay.
so when did we get that bill, we could have that discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we're putting the money in here in case they don't have that.
Yeah.
Any other comments on them? Okay, that takes us to B7, line 66.
Yeah, line 66. This was on the one time. So one of the things I tried to reconcile some last night is things that were in other bills that are actually base spending. Put it over to the base sheet position in S218 for the road salt program at A&R. That's got it in it. See, it's 150,000.
Yeah.
And just to be clear, the last time we looked at this, it was like 0.35. So it'll be the one time will be
Oh, yeah.
Right.
0.15.
There's 200,000 on the other sheet for the one-time contract cost. On line 80, I forgot to highlight the title, but in S206, the act relating to licensure of early childhood educators by OPR, there were two positions in that bill that are created. Though we were looking at the bill itself, the funding for those positions is in the bill itself. So we're gonna carry it, so we're gonna account for it, but it's not gonna be carried as a separate appropriation. Elsewhere, it's already in the. So when the Senate passed 206,
Yeah.
it included an appropriation to OPR to fund those positions and the creation of the position.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the positions are established in the appropriations that's in that bill that the House has.
Right. So if we know whether they passed the bill or not, the accomplishment.
Yes.
We're reserving the money.
Yeah.
If the bill doesn't pass, we have this money now. It's correct.
And if we appropriated it directly to the Secretary of State's office through the big bill, you will have appropriated it twice. It's already in the bill, but you don't want to do it twice. Okay, and then the last change on this sheet, on line 93, this is also our most up-to-date understanding of what is happening across the hall in Senate Finance. But pending the adoption of the miscellaneous tax bill, they are discussing reducing the expansion of the downtown village tax credit from 1 million by $1 million to $500,000. So the total downtown village tax credit would be $3.5 million instead of $4 million.
And I did confirm with the chair of finance that, even though they hadn't voted the bill out, that was going to change.
Now you said something. I just want to make sure that I'm understanding.
Okay.
I don't.
Yes, this is the House wants to reduce the amount, so we're saying we're not gonna reduce it as much,
Yeah, so because it's a tax credit,
right?
it's reducing the amount of revenue that's available.
Yeah.
So they're gonna reduce the amount of revenue available by approximately less.
Right, okay. So more, we're saying that we want more money to go for this, downtown village.
No.
No, $500,000 less.
Okay, that was great.
But they have 3 million in the base program.
3 million in the base, the House brought it to 4, my understanding is Senate Finance is for rates of trade tax.
And I think, Senate, one of the Senate economic development bills had it, the housing bill had it at this value as well. So we only have to account for half. So that's the base sheet. So this would leave us at $28 million.
Less 1.1,
Less,
or 0.11 or 2.
yes, less one.
1.
2-1-1-1. That's why we did. Yeah. That's 28, 4-3.
All right, change direction. And. Okay. Sorry. This same deal has been updated, things in pink, salmon, whatever that color is, reflect updates from yesterday. Then there are a few other fun colors I'll address when we get to that. But the on line 1, that update, that reflects the reversion sheet we just went through, but that hasn't changed the last couple days. I updated that a couple days ago, just to show we're carrying that. And then in the yellow on line 5, that should match the number on the bottom line on the page.
It'll be
The
28, 4-3.
Yeah, so it's. Great. Okay. On line 9, the provider stabilization. For the reduction of 575,000 for the proposal from Senator Ryan yesterday.
Done.
On this, I know it's not highlighted, but lines 10 through 14 related to DCF and the housing proposal. There was a technical amendment requested on how those are appropriated. So when we do the one-time appropriations, we'll be able to show it. We'll update sort of how that appropriation works in the technical letter. Just applying to that. It's a little different. Line 20. This is a placeholder for funding for local food shelves. I don't know, there's a proposal potentially, but we can see whether that people are ready to propose it.
Senator from Loyal has a proposal, but let's go through all these and then we'll do your.
Okay.
You can do.
I have one proposal, but it will some other this. One buddy took my one, some.
Right, but you also have the one about the petition.
I
We're not
have,
ready.
I thought about it, getting with Emily,
We'll take a break at some point.
we'll take a break and I can touch base with them.
Okay. Well, now let's go through all of these and come back to both food shelf.
The money around food,
Right, the other one doesn't affect me.
no, doesn't affect me.
Well, I guess it was, depending on the date. We'll deal with that. Okay.
Line 21, additional $100,000 for the one home. And line 24,
That's for the adoption.
line 24, change the appropriation from Meals on Wheels. Yeah, the proposal from Senator Lyons. Line 26, additional funding for primary care case management, $1.9 million of general fund that will gross out to $4.5 million in global commitment funds. Line 33, funding for a community resource center up in north
It's up here.
South Bureau. Thank you.
So something that brought by Senator Brennan, that we had 25 on the bottom line, Senator Brennan. Just so you know, if that's 25, because that's what we had. But
On line 37, this is a technical correction that we needed to update with the AEDs in schools appropriation. The House had appropriated it to the Department of Health. The technical letter asked that it go to the Agency of Education. We looked at the bill that set up the program, and the Agency of Education is in charge of managing it. So that would, it's a net neutral change to move it out of health, and we'll appropriate it to the Agency of Education. Line 42, the CVOEO day shelter.
so why wouldn't we put the money in the Senate column?
It's on the next page, AOE.
Should we put it in the place?
Yeah, this is, sorry, bottom. Line 41, the CVOEO day shelter, reduce the funding for the proposal from Center Alliance. Yes.
So I think we could talk about the relation home. So, and we did put funding into this with the 50% of what was needed. And, this shelter has been funded one time since 2020. So this is one time funding process to take the money they now might be pretty categorical. That to the shelter. So yeah, I would probably recommend for us to cut that number to ensure that there is at least some funding that can get through. I think we get through the but get through the way.
So we similar to two and we reduce that.
Yeah.
By or increase it back by
Yes.
out of the 47. So it'd be in Senate column be 0.234. So those two changes that Senator Lyons reduces the amount of money that would be available for primary care payments. And if we want to support that primary care payment plan, we're hoping to find some much somewhere in this.
It'll reduce by 0.4 more money. And the goal is to try that's close to 5 million. Everything that's what's this money? I'll go to my primary care talk.
I got a quick one.
Yes. No, so
It's not highlighted or whatever else. And on the folder, so on line 43, what is that? On both days.
that's another proposal from Senator from Ohio. Or from Washington.
We have
Senators.
during COVID through us, 3 adult centers in the state. One in Rutland, one in Barry, and we have not recovered one. And it's, we put money in the budget, but I can't remember which we had,
Not this year's.
when I was a couple of years ago, I thought it was the Nathan, but we are not 300 months, not sure. And we're halfway through the process, and each person is interested in opening a different data areas. And she's like halfway through the process. And this will open the adult day. The Rutland Hospital has shown some interest in the adult day in Rutland. With the aging population, we've got
We need a more and more.
Yep. And this is really 100,000 is a placeholder to say to Dale that we got to pay attention to see if we can, and if we could open one in Barry, there are apparently 3 families in Barry that are driving clear first to drop their family, that the adult family first when they go to work. That seems. Okay. And you got it.
Okay. So before we flip the sheet over, I think we should go back to Claire Westman's proposal, because my understanding is your proposal affects the appropriation of line 44.
No, I don't know that you brought me enough sheets for everybody, but
Not way maybe,
but
or 43. No, 43 was a proposal to add in that $100,000. It's still,
Have another,
but no, he's making a proposal to line 44. That'll, basically wants to take money to 44, but it's in line.
I can basically talk
he
about
wants to
this.
share it.
I wonder why.
Nobody wants to. Well, I share your problem. Let me start with, this. Last year, we put $1 million in for money for food shelters. This budget that we received from the governor and from us has nothing to do with the shelter, food shelters. And if you remember in the fall, when, the federal government shutdown was in place, we moved money quickly in the food shelters out to people, during that month-long period that we thought that EBT cards should shut down. They have a vital role in this, and they're zeroed out in the budget we're seeing. I don't like making this as a proposal. I really suspect that this will be an issue that comes up in the conference committee. Thank you. But this would reduce the Vermonters feeding Vermonters, which I really not. At the end, it would take cash crop and cash crop plus and reduce the number and move the money into food shelves, and that block here you can see, and it would do a slight reduction of 32,000 to in only healthy meals and snacks for children, and it would put the money into food shelves. I would also say that food shelves is a place when your food assistance runs out in the month of money. Families that end up with a food shelf, and what food shelves need the most is flexibility to get protein for kids at the end of the week. And this is not any, I don't do this happily, but I think we need to be aware that food shelves are a place where there's no overhead there. I put this in front of you because I like to keep this is on the discussion table, and it is significantly less than we would have last year.
So I'm just trying to understand.
What you see is in is what the House did in page 951. And if you see in the general fund line, you see 182 to 400 to 500. That's what the House put in. What you see in the line, the blue highlighting line is the $1 million that was last year, what we did. The upshot of this would be we could move 697,000 into the chunks.
And it would come in the form of these subtractions from.
Yep. Yes, it would. But we don't zero anybody out. This is when clearly the intent here is to make it something that we discuss when we get to this.
And I'm sorry if I missed this, but Vermonters feeding Vermonters.
Yep.
Is, am I right, that that's
They buy food, they buy food from farmers.
right?
And supply us with the food.
So if we're taking money from that,
That has it's money that goes to the ag department. They buy food from local farmers and it works through a process to, it's a great program. It's a great, none of these aren't great programs. We're down to the end, there's no money left.
yeah,
And
I'm just wondering if we take the money there, aren't we taking a little bit and giving a little bit from the food shelves?
In a way, that this, what Center Western's proposals have DCF give a right to the food shelf, that it gives it to ag, but it from the farmers to get the food shelf.
and
The food shelf could buy it from a farmer and it would be the same, or they could do whatever the local food shelf decide want to do.
I see.
That's, but you are reducing the programs so that the local food shelves have more.
I had some authorized years, but that money got paid.
Yeah, he had to take a little more because there was not money available. That's what, and he didn't want to take it from the transportation.
Well,
I don't know where I take it.
I do think this proposal raises all of this discussion. Yeah. To get right. So it's not,
There's not anything,
trying to figure out in this sector how from it.
but food shelves left with zero.
What do we, how many food shelves are there? How would this money, how does, I'm not familiar, I know. Food shelves, but how does
I
the money,
can't remember how many was being voted for the first game, right?
the food bank with, no,
DCF.
DCF?
It would track the same language we used last year.
Yeah, we've done this even a couple times. We have language that I think it's directly to DCF, not to. I think at one point we gave money to the food bank, but we told the food bank they had to give it to the local shop.
And we give them I would remind everybody though that in the fall, when we when the federal government was in shutdown, the first place we chose to send money out to was through food shelves. This is, they're a vital link in this. There's zero value in this country unless we do something. And
And they're mostly volunteer.
Yep.
Or all volunteer.
they're pretty much all volunteers. And I'll get you the number. I'll get you the number of food shelves and it's surprising how much extra things we do.
We do,
And you must have a couple of the,
we do.
And do you remember, Senator Wexton, was just each food shelf got the same amount, or was it
they have for you, but if they can't take the money out, they will follow it.
based on the size of the
Go
food
ahead.
shelf?
A little birdie would pretty much hear that the 220 food shelves.
220? Or do we know that that got money in the past when we did this?
I don't know the answer, but a little birdie would tell.
There wasn't much more.
Okay, well, does anybody else have any questions for question on this?
It's not my
Common.
favorite thing to do.
Understood, and I trust Senator Westman as this goes forward to, and the conflict of interest. It's very important on the air, according to the past.
Okay, so we will direct they voted to make these changes. Spreadsheets. Which the changes would be to line 44. Bag 46, agency bag 50, line 60, 52 to the standard. Those are the three programs that would see a reduction. But it's a net zero change, so bottom line.
That was not my intention. I was there.
That brings us back to line 45.
Yes, we're on the next page. The conservation districts. I believe yesterday there was some discussion about bringing this to zero. This brings it back, and then conversation to bring it back up to 300,000. That's good stuff here. Line 51 was yesterday this proposal to reduce the funding for Advanced Vermont. This restores that funding. Line 53, this is the one that I was. Sorry.
What is advanced?
Senator Brett,
Of course, what is that?
so I'll have Brett now.
It's a Vermont youth graduate, graduate school with Clear. I've got it all written down here. Clear actionable plan. What they do is Vermont Bell learners can successfully navigate edging and career paths forward. Basically educates them as they're moving forward in life, gives them a clear path up. That builds up job opportunities, educational opportunities. And we funded them last year. They had a $600,000 base request this year. The House went along, I think, with 400,000 votes again for down to 2, which allows them basically to keep the door open, explore, gives them the opportunity to explore further grant opportunities. And I've got more.
No, it's just, I just want to, I level, what is it?
Line 53, we talked about this is just moving the AEDs to the agency location from the health department. Line 61, there was some funding for CAPO inspection training here. That has been removed. And then on line 62, adding in $25,000 for the LCI mission. Then in the other bills section, line 68, the prescription drug discount card program. That funding was taken out in the construct yesterday, back in today's construct. This one was carried in the one-time list, but is more appropriately carried, I believe, in H740. This bill, I understand, is still in Senate Natural and being contemplated. If the decision is to move that forward, this would reserve $300,000 to be appropriated in that bill.
They would need to put the appropriate. They would need to put it in.
Correct, yes.
Why would they need? We have to just need.
Well, we could decide to put it in the budget, or you could let it travel with the bill.
You don't need one or the other. You would.
Correct.
So right now we have a traveling budget. They would need that.
They would have to, yeah, and I think because it's where it gets a little funny is if it's an S bill that you've already passed out as with the House, you have to carry the funding in the budget. But if it's an H bill that the Senate still has possession with, if you wanted to, you could put the appropriation in the bill itself versus putting it in the budget. So this is contemplating adding it to the bill itself, rather.
This is contemplating. Oh, so you're.
You can tell us.
We're still accounting for.
Correct, it's still accounted for.
And so if we wanted to keep it in this budget, we would put back into one.
Yes.
I think that's an ongoing discussion. Did you have a preference?
No.
I guess for now we'll leave it as it is on the sheet. Money's there either way. And you're working on passing the bill. Right now, the bill has its House appropriation. took out the appropriation that was in there, but you don't have to do this if there's no appropriation.
Line 73, this is the education transformation bill. My understanding is additional conversations with the education committees, based on what passed out of the House this morning and what the Senate's Education Committee is contemplating. This would hold $1.5 million to be appropriated in H 955 if needed.
And should say that Senate, this is not only a conversation with the Senate Education Committee, but with the Senate Finance Committee. Because the Senate Education Committee was talking about using some money from the ed fund, which changes the yield, changes the property tax. So the Finance Committee said, we could find the money in the general fund, deal with it, then they don't have to change the yield, which they were about to vote on. So by putting the 1.5 million in here, in the general fund, the yield stayed the way that they could vote it out. With a little less pressure off of the property tax. So that they're counting on us not changing that.
On line 76, and I should say back to line 73, this is in addition to the money that was appropriated or that's reallocated in the language that came over from the House.
So this gives Senate Education Committee about $3 million to build their version of the transition grants, basically.
Line 76, this one we talked about on the base sheet. We moved the two positions related to early childhood education licensing over to the base, so we don't have to carry it on a one-time sheet. Line 787, this is another one we talked about on the base sheet. The position moved over to the base, but the $200,000 for one-time contract costs remain as a one-time appropriation. That will go to AR.
And then with that, when it's listed in a section like this, does that travel with the bill?
No, that bill, because that bill is already over with the House, that will travel. The next version of the sheet that you see on Tuesday when you get the bill will move the S bill appropriations to one-time appropriations to the agencies.
Is S 218 progressing in the House, Senator Watson?
Yes, I believe
House of Strokes.
yeah, they passed.
And then the last one, line 85, that's 238. Funds only the first generation home buyer program. On line 89, the Vermont State Police Radio Equipment Replacement Fund, just wanted to flag, we all had a conversation about potentially changing the name of it or addressing different equipment in that fund. Just wanted to flag it. I don't know if there was any other discussion. I know Brady potentially has some language around the name. Do you find that? Maybe not. Never mind. I forget what I just said.
Just a,
We were gonna talk about it first and then there'll be language.
just a quick question on this. Is this also gonna be, well, this one-time transfer fund?
Yeah.
I read that.
Yeah, so $500,000 this year and then $500,000, like presumably the governor will propose to continue moving $500,000 or an amount.
So I was reading something else. You were talking about that. Reading here may not have language about the replacement fund.
Really does have one.
Great, I'm not crazy.
No, so great.
It's late, it's Friday. Who knows
Yes.
anymore? Okay, 91, the Communications and Information Technology Fund. The House had added $1 million to help repay the deficit. This construct would not add any additional funds to pay back that deficit.
I basically use that million plus money we had on the bottom line to fund the education transformation. 1.5 million on the line, so.
And then the last one, this one's a little funky because it's from the fund, but yesterday, talked about eliminating the state peace reserve fund and transferring the $60,000 out back to the fund. So that's a little bit more resources. After all of those changes, and I should flag, heard from Chris Roop that the miscellaneous tax bill has passed. Senate Finance, and it includes the changes to the downtown tax credit. Concurs with the House position on Fish and Wildlife needs, so this matches what they have done. Then there's 50 grand, I think it's $49,000.
It's in case reserve fund.
It's the reserve fund.
Right, we didn't have that
Exactly.
reserve. That's just enough to open the appropriations speakeasy lounge. Okay. So I'm gonna propose we take a break. And then we'll have Mr. Grady. You can find it in your meetings. And then he'll come and do the, we'll do the walkthrough of the language and I think the walkthrough the language should also deal with any other open things that we have. And then we could drop all, do we want to just have you do a new one or no?
That's gonna be my question. The local food shelves, we have a spreadsheet and understand that. So with the CVO, change and the 211 change, where was that? Was there something we were gonna reduce?
Yeah, I have a spreadsheet.
Okay.
I can show you.
Perfect.
We're gonna come back and